Welcome to SEE Blissfully-lit podcast. I'm your host, Sammy White, and I am pleased to have a beautiful guest, Miss Bethany Monaghan, here today with me. She is a change maker. She is here helping women break free from the hustle culture and return to their natural rhythm. She's currently in her own transition of this beautiful life's journey, and I would love to hear a little bit more about yourself, Miss Bethany.
Thank you, Sammy, for having me on. I'm so incredibly happy to see this come to life, and for all the listeners, whoever needs to hear what we unravel and discuss today. My name is Bethany. I really have had quite an interesting journey over the last several years of my life. As Sammy mentioned, I'm in transition, and I'm somebody who's passionate about holistic health and healing and helping others along the way. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. As a reminder to our listeners, this podcast is all about really finding that essence of authenticity and sharing it and really feeling confident in your whole self and actually having that space, that comfort to be raw, to be you, and to share what's really beneath the surface. So, before we dive in, I would love to hear what magic means to you and how it plays a role in your journey.
This is a great question because over the last couple of years, I've really redefined what magic means. Magic, I used to think, were these moments of big trips or these really catapulted opportunities in life, and I've redefined that over the last maybe 5 years or so to be magic in the mundane, is a phrase that I often use. So for me, magic is moments, small detailed moments of beautiful creations that take place really when you still your mind and you settle into the eternal present now. That's what magic has meant to me.
Such a beautiful, succinct definition. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I really relate to that definition. I found that when you really think about magic and you dig into it and you witness it, when are those moments that you see magic? It's usually not when you're looking for it. It's usually when you are so in the moment, you're doing the thing, you're, caught in that rapture and oh my goodness, what is going on around me? All of this beauty, all of this glory.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
I found a lot of the time when you're looking for it, you miss what's really there.
I find that to be true too. It's oftentimes, like you said, if you're trying to create magic as opposed to letting magic be something that you attune your energetic frequency to, then you are able to see it from that space, as opposed to I have to create magic. The magic is already here, but you're just attuning your mind to see it. I mean, a perfect example was for me was on a walk yesterday. There were these beautiful, it's springtime here where I live, and there were these beautiful pink flowers that were just so playful and feminine and just dancing in the wind and here at the beach. And because I had tuned my attention to receive that magic, I was able to really experience it, not from just a I see this flower, but it was like a palpable energetic feeling. And there those moments are all around, and it could be simple. You know, magic in the mundane is the mundane moments, the non-sexy, like the Monday morning hustle and bustle and nothing sexy about it. But then you step outside and you put your feet in the earth and you look up and you feel the sun kissing your skin, like that is magic. And I just would encourage, Sammy, I think you and I have a very similar perspective on that magic doesn't have to necessarily be these material things, which is so deeply ingrained in our cultural conditioning. And maybe we'll get into that in this podcast. But magic really is something that has already been provided by source, by our creator, and it's free, doesn't cost anything.
It's free each and every day. And I experience it with the sun rising, the sun setting, those moments with loved ones where you really just share your heart.
Yeah.
And like you said, just adoring a sweet flower or really chewing your food and tasting it.
Mm.
When's the last time you really tasted the flavors of the food you were eating and slowed down? It's a form of meditation.
Mm. That's something I'm really passionate about, is that recalibration. And I'm still very deep in that journey of recalibrating the nervous system to slow down and to be in natural rhythm with Mother Earth, with Mother Nature, as we look at how she is such a role model and how that's not celebrated in our culture. But really, from that space, that's when you can fully receive all that is. I mean, something as simple as sipping a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it might be is not just drinking it to drink it because we're moving on to the next thing in our headspace. To really be with the all of the senses, the way that the cup feels in your hand and the warmth that's entering your fingertips and the way that it slides down your throat. And these are very feminine energetics that are often missed. And that's been my journey. And I'd love to dive into that with you, Sammy, too. Like from that realm and from that way of being in this cultural conditioning, at least here in the United States, I can't speak, and I can only speak from my personal experience, but you are in a similar journey too of this unraveling, unweaving, and rewriting a different way of being by celebrating more magical moments. What does that look like for you?
Oh, such a lovely question. I love the self-reflection. Um,
Hmm.
what does that look like for me? So this morning, I was, I admit this morning is the first time I've ever listened to Tony Robbins. And I know a lot of people will be like, wow, I can't believe this. But yes, this morning I decided to listen to Tony Robbins of all days. And I was just listening to the video right before we came on here, and Sage came on, and she was talking about how not only our culture or and males, but also females deny this feminine aspect within us. And Tony was talking about in childhood, you choose a certain role that you play because that is how you receive from your parent. And in my part of this journey right now, I am retraining that child and allowing that child to receive, allowing that child to give, allowing that child to be them authentically and to not, be that strong, independent, I can do everything all the time, and to not always be super soft and lovey, but to really find the good integration of when those aspects can come forth. And in doing so, it brings me back to my whole self. It brings me back to my authenticity and who Sammy really is deep down inside. And she's been unleashing the last, gosh, 6 months. And meeting her at her core, I'm finding this really fun, creative, incredible being who has so much power, yet so much softness beneath her.
Hmm.
And she's brave and she's courageous and can create like no other.
Yes, I have chills. That's incredible because I think too when we share so openly, which is why I love this forum, this podcast and what you've birthed because it really is like when we share our stories and your experience, like you said, even over the last 6 months, and it's a forever journey, right? But really to be open gives people a permission slip to start to question, oh wow, like what parts of me do I get to sit with? And um, the way that we're feeling it if it's out of alignment and dissonant doesn't mean that that's our state of being and that there's so much more magic. I think of Sammy when you said that, I think of the ocean, which I've been blessed to live by the ocean for the last a month or so. And the ocean reminds me so much of feminine energy in the sense that you don't want to mess with her because she has so much force, but that's not her power. That she doesn't have to have these massive big waves. It could be subtle and slow and gentle. And she houses and carries so much life in her in and through her within a whole different realm. With all the creatures that live inside of her waters and everything that she bursts through that space. But it's playful too, right? I mean, there's times growing up at the beach with my grandparents, there's times where we'd go and you just never really knew what version of her you'd get, but you were really able to find respect. I mean, even as a little girl, I had deep reverence for the ocean because you could go in, but you have to be very careful because if you get caught up, you could drown or you could get really injured as you're tumbling in the waves. So I just remember this deep connection and love with the ocean. But I think what was happening and now having this realization and what you just shared is it was the awakening of that part of me to know that the feminine power, and like you said, not so much masculine or feminine, like male or female, rather, just this energetic that exists within all of us and has been a topic that a lot of people are talking about now, which I think is incredible because we're coming back into this space where the world more than ever needs more of this feminine energetic to come back alive because it's been out of balance. And the ocean, to bring this back full circle, as maybe for the listeners to understand, maybe they haven't heard feminine masculine energy as we're talking about this. Like, what does that mean? How has Sammy stepped back into this creative portal within herself? From a visual perspective, I see it as the ocean. So smooth and soft and gentle and fluid, right? The way that the ocean moves is not structured. And it's a beautiful visual for me when describing that feminine energetics and playfulness.
Thank you for sharing that analogy. It's actually it's quite on point, and I do relate to the ocean in that way. She's played a big role in my unraveling of myself too. I've spent a lot of time on the beach and the ocean in LA, finding that part of myself, singing songs, writing music. It's quite beautiful, actually. I'll have to
Mm.
share that on one of my individuals. Um, I am curious, could you share a story of your turning point in your life that maybe was more meaningful and has started to transform your path toward conscious living?
Mm, wow. Where do I even begin with this one? So, kind of carrying over what we were just talking about and how this flows into this question. I was somebody as a little girl who was, whether these were my own expectations or from my surroundings, I was celebrated for being in my masculine, although my doing, my forcing, my bold, robust, gotta get it done energy. And I think a lot of it was unconscious because that's how we're programmed to receive or to accomplish, particularly in this culture. And so over the years, somebody that worked in corporate America and worked my way up and had a six-figure job and all of those things, very much in this like unconsciously in this energy. And the catalyst to conscious living was really when I got burnt out, like physically, I started to get sick. I actually had cystic acne. I was losing my hair. I developed SIBO, gut issues, and I had a panic attack. And I realized, oh wait, like I wasn't in my soft, gentle, creative nature of that rhythmic being. And so I started seeking holistic modalities, which is really where the turn of consciousness happened, because I was relying so much externally on doctors to tell me what was wrong with me, or at least to help me heal. And the healing never happened. I had spent tens and thousands of dollars both on this like stress, cystic acne that broke out. I was losing my hair. And looking back, I've tied all these puzzle pieces together over the years of like, oh my gosh. But that was my body really screaming, like, hey, we need to wake up. And so, what I have found in my journey towards more conscious living, more holistic living, is that I always thought the answers were outside of me. I have had so countless doctors tell me that nothing is wrong with you. And then there came a time where I was laying, probably 4 years ago, I was laying in my bed, staring at the ceiling, working in Excel with 3 monitors. And my soul, this was like when I first started getting in touch with the fact that there's something that's not my mind. And I just had this knowing that my soul wasn't alive. And so I'd stare at the ceiling and I'd think, who am I impacting, right? I'm negotiating contracts for a better price for another person outside of myself. And my journey began to start to tune in to that inner voice. And I found meditation, I found devotional prayer. Um, I just started following that whisper towards more conscious living, which then awoke in me to the fact that everything that I've been taught, I've been told, is not everything, a lot of things is not for my own well-being. And then the conscious piece, it started with meditation. It started with devotional prayer and just listening to the whispers of my soul and following that. And that's where it really all began. And that's been the journey back home to what we all are and what we're all connected to, and spending time in nature, eating real wholesome foods, slowing down, soaking in the sun, being fully present has been a big part of that journey. So it's been a long journey, and it's been these small little puzzle pieces that I don't know that I had one catalyst moment per se, but it's been this unraveling and these like beautiful pieces coming all in divine timing that have helped me to be aware of the truth, like beyond the veil, so to speak.
Thank you for sharing. Of those pieces, I'm curious, which pieces have been the most impactful in your life? Which pieces are you still using? Would you
Mm.
recommend for others?
Specifically for getting back in attunement with what and who we are, or
Which helped you the most in your transformational journey?
mm, I think
And
for me, it's been better understanding. I use the term holistic living, holistic medicine a lot. And for the listeners that aren't maybe familiar with what exactly I'm referencing, the way that I view that is mind, body, soul. Like we have a mental body, we have an emotional body, we have a physical body. And for so long, I only was focused because I didn't know. I didn't have that level of consciousness that I was more than my body. And so I would like beat my body up and I'd work out. And then in this whole journey back home and this continual journey back home, some of the modalities that I've used to really help me feel more at home have been mothering, kind of pulling in that feminine energetic again, mothering multiple components of myself in the mind, body, soul, right? I see it like a triangle.
Mhm.
Um, Soul at the top, mind, body. And so there's different modalities that the listeners can maybe play with to help them recalibrate. And for me, what that looked like was one was time in nature. We come from nature. We're not separate from nature. We have been in boxes, whether in our cars, in our rooms, in our beds, staring at boxes, in boxes. And we really come alive when we reconnect to what and who we are. We live in this beautiful planet. So for me, that's something as simple as take your shoes off. You didn't come into the earth with the shoes. Take your shoes off and plant them in the ground. Go to the park. Place your hands in the soil and plant some seeds. And so time in nature has been so critical for me. And
Yeah,
you don't have to ground, but take a bike ride, go for a walk instead of going to the gym and being indoors in another box. Like,
I I actually have utilized that one a lot as well. I would say throughout my life,
yeah.
getting time in nature, at least, once a day, and maybe a deeper dive, maybe into the woods or something on the weekend, or once a week if you can. It can be so impactful. And I know you and I have studied pranic healing, and in one of Master Choa's books, he, talks about psychic self-defense and
Mm,
the energetics of the city, and it can be so impactful on your mental health, on your spiritual health, on your physical health. And energetically, there's so much in the city that getting out into nature you can get away from, and
yeah.
really clear all of that and give you the space to reflect, to recover, to recharge in so many different ways.
I'm so glad we're talking about this. I feel like we can dive into this further because I lived in cities the majority of my life until now. I mean, I'm in a small little historic town at the moment, but I didn't know something was off. You talk about kind of this journey of healing and consciousness and what has that looked like. I'll share something that maybe the listeners can resonate with. Before I knew a lot about energy and energy work, as Sammy mentioned, we've been studying from a school by Master Choa Koksui, and it's a form of energy work called pranic healing. Before all of that, back to like that intuitive knowing, I was living in apartment buildings in cities, and it got to the point where like if you're feeling stuff that's not yours, you're right. You're right. And follow that whisper. So I would start to feel, I didn't know what it was, but I was feeling stuff like heavy, sad, depressed. And I was like, what is this? And realizing that because I was living in a city, we all have this energy body. I was picking up on the person that lived above me, below me, beside me. And it just, and not to say you have to move out of your apartment building if you're in one, but for me, what I started doing unconsciously without knowing a lot about energy was I just knew intuitively, like, I need to go to the park. And so if you live in a city, like that was part of my journey. You asked, like, what was a critical part? I started going to the park. And then I felt like I need to take my shoes off because as a little girl, that's what I did. I'd never had shoes on. And then eventually it led into starting a grounding group. But that was a huge part of my journey. But I think for the listeners listening, like, it also doesn't have to be this big thing because for me, and I feel like most people in the self-development space, which if you're listening, you probably are, you've probably been drawn to this podcast. And I'm still rewiring this, but something that's been so helpful for me over the years is that you don't have to like go out in nature for an hour, make it work for you, right? If you're working in a city, if you're working a full-time job, you're a mom, whatever it might be, we all carry so many roles. But if you can simply, like this morning, I just put my feet in the grass for 3 minutes and sat on the stoop and let the sun hit my face. That counts. So don't discredit those small micro moments in your healing journey that there has to be an all or nothing. It doesn't. So that's my
Yeah.
encouragement because that was huge on my journey. Like it can be this a glass of water, like take a 15-minute walk if that's all you have, it all counts.
I agree with that. When I was working in a doctor's office, actually, I was very adamant about taking my 15-minute walk break out in nature. And no matter what was going on that day, I worked in clinical research, if I had a monitor there, if I had my boss there, if I had a bunch of different meetings, I scheduled in my 15-minute walk and everything could wait.
Mm,
I was going to go out in nature and I was going to go detox and I was going to come back. And in doing that, I believe I encouraged a few of my coworkers to start doing that too. And as you start taking care of yourself more, it really starts to reverberate into other people's lives and it can positively impact the whole. So,
mm,
conscious living for more people than just you. And honestly, if I hadn't done that, I don't know how it would have impacted my work and my personal well-being, but I believe that it really helped me to stay more grounded. It helped me to be a better worker. It helped me to be healthier. Although I, like Bethany, had some weird health ailments that the doctors could not tell me what was wrong with me.
mm.
And not until I actually started practicing pranic healing did I get better. So you just never know exactly what the um, etiology is of what you're specifically going through if you don't start exploring.
Yeah.
And you don't have to live with it.
This brings me to something that I feel very passionate about is the way that when we talk about not feeling centered or feeling off or being stressed in our work environment, which is chronic stress is such a problem right now, which causes inflammation, and then all the things lead from that space, is that I really believe that when we give the body and the mind and the emotions and the spirit the opportunity to come back home into recalibration or alignment or whatever word feels good for you, into homeostasis, it heals itself. And that's been something that I've realized is that we live in a world where there's a lot. This is a whole nother conversation, but there's a lot of people. I know more people that don't feel good in their body, that feel inflamed, that have something going on mentally, physically, emotionally, than people who do feel well. Like it's just common to meet somebody, and whether it's stress or depression or anxiety or a physical ailment. And I think it's time to start waking up to the fact that it doesn't have to be, like Sammy said, it doesn't have to be that way. That's not why we're here. But if we give the body and we give ourselves, first and foremost, that space to slow down, to recalibrate, such as taking the 15-minute walk, you will start to find that over time and through consistency and honoring what it is that you need, despite what your colleagues or your boss might think, showing up for yourself, you will start to find your center again. And like Sammy, you'll give other people permission to say, wait, I don't have to worry about what Joe says or my boss because I'm doing what's right for me, and that radiates. And then you give them that permission slip. And that's how we change, kind of talking about awakening in the consciousness, is that's how we start to ripple our impact, is starting with us and honoring our needs and the whispers of the soul. And then it creates bigger lasting change than we can ever imagine.
It's so true. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That vibrates in all the most beautiful ways for me.
Mm,
I'm noticing more and more how our journeys are very similar, and this brings up the topic of synchronicity, which I've felt a lot of synchronicity about us meeting, about our friendship and how it's blossomed, and I am truly, truly grateful that we have become as close as we have and that
mm.
we encountered each other. I mean, it's just incredible how we even met. I mean, it's not like we just walked up and said, "Hey, I want to be your friend." I think I think I met you at a sales table at a pranic healing course, if I'm
Hmm.
not mistaken. And
Yeah, I think it
I
was
was
either there or like you were literally, I think you might have been right behind me in line. Maybe something, it was around pranic healing, of course, because energy like attracts like always.
yeah, and I think we just started chit-chatting and it was just so synchronous. We we're in a long conversation and I was like, "Oh yeah, you should try this. You could try this." And then lo and behold, we get each other's numbers and we're chatting about similar topics and meshing this really beautiful, kindred friendship. And I love that that shows up more and more in your life as you show up authentically. Um, I'm really curious. Do you have any extraordinary experiences of synchronicity that just stand out in
Mm.
your life that just, they just kind of shocked you? Because at this point, I know we have them so often that it's just kind of like, okay, that's
It's
funny.
fun.
But
Uh,
you
well,
know
you
what
know
I
what's
mean?
yeah, I think it's funny because when we think about synchronistic moments, at least for me, in the past, I've thought about them as these what I perceived or termed as good, right? Like these magical moments. But I really believe synchronistic moments are happening all the time. Like we're constantly manifesting. Manifesting is just not like good things, right? It's or bad. There's no such thing. Everything just is. But it's like we are constantly attracting what and who we are. Or if it's not that, what our higher soul knows that we deeply need so that we can evolve and grow. And so whether that's a person interacting, right? Like meeting Sammy, how synchronistic and divine was that? Or it's somebody that we interact with that maybe we deem not a great conversation at the coffee shop. Like we're constantly attracting what and who we need to evolve. And so like synchronistic moments, something that I perceived as a really, really catalytic moment for me, speaking of Tony Robbins, I can share this many, many years ago. That's kind of where I started my journey was self-development. I was like self-development guru, like all in the mindset, like reading all the Tony books, going to all the Tony things, like really dove deep into that realm before my spiritual journey kind of took off. And I was I was journaling with a friend. Um, well, a step way back. I was manifesting with a friend that we were going to go to this Tony event, and we didn't have the funds to get the ticket that we wanted in the front. So we decided to co-manifest together. So we were writing descriptively, the whole thing, like this is, oh my God, like our whole experience, who we met, the people we met, how it would feel. And we both were doing this together and how close Tony was. But we had no idea how it was going to happen. In fact, we called the hotel and the hotel had been booked for like 7 months in advance where the conference was. And just through so many synchronistic moments, gosh, I could get into this, but like I'm holding the credit card and like I'm calling in source and I'm like, if it's meant to be, if we're meant to be there. And then the guy just randomly is like, I asked about time blocks. This was probably 5 years ago at this point, maybe longer. I asked about time or room blocks rather, not time blocks, room blocks. And I said, well, do you have any room blocks? And he's like, ma'am, they've been sold out forever. Like, people knew Tony was coming. The hotel gets booked up. So in my head, I'm like, okay, we're like, I'm saying it out loud. We're co-manifesting. I'm holding my credit card up and I'm like, okay, if it's meant to be, we'll have a room. And then he's like, well, hold on 1 second. And so he puts me on hold and he gets off and comes back and he goes, we do have a time block actually. It's for, and I swear to you, I Googled it, it didn't exist. It was like some Christmas. He's like, how about we book you through the Christmas workshop? It was like some creative Christmas workshop they were hosting at the hotel simultaneously with this Tony event. And he's like, would it be okay if I booked you under that time block? And I'm like, absolutely, like that works. And he's like, oh, it's also a pool facing room. Is that okay with you? And that's exactly like we literally pulled up photos of this of a pool facing room. Like the whole thing was exactly played out exactly. So that was a part of the synchronistic moment. But one thing that was a catalyst to my change, a catalyst and change to this whole journey was okay. I'm like, we got the room, we're going, right? Amazing. But we're still all the way in the back of a 10,000 person room. So you're like way, 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 way back. And we were visualizing for front row, not front row, but close, right? In the front. Well, we get to the hotel and we are like, okay, the event starts in 2 days. If it's meant to be, it'll be. So long story short, I'm standing to check into the hotel room. And there's a gentleman back to like that synchronistic, like that knowing that I looked at my friend and I said, he's our ticket. And she goes, what? And I go, I just know he's our ticket to not be in the back. And she's like, okay. And he had this shirt, a fire, if you're a Tony person listening in, you'd appreciate this. It's a fire walking shirt from like 20 some years ago. I mean, like OG, like you could tell this shirt has been worn. And I just tapped him on the shoulder, turned around, and like an instant connection. He's also a pranic healer. And my world forever changed that day because of that one divine synchronistic moment in the hotel room. So we had introduced ourselves, but I didn't get his number. But I just again knew. He's like, oh, this is your first Tony event in person. Long story short, he walks away, gets in the elevator. I said to my friend, we need to get his number. And I said, no, if it's meant to be, we'll see him again. Next day, we turned the corner of this huge hotel room and boom, we ran into him. He's like, would you like to go to dinner? So fast forward, he was a platinum partner and is a platinum partner and invited us to be his guest. And I didn't even know what a plat was, but a platinum partner is like front row, like Tony people, right? And now
I've
I
heard.
have dear friends. I have so many dear friends. Most of my friends are in that community. But all of that to say, that was a synchronistic moment that I just was in utter awe. And so everything we had visualized, like 5 rows back from the stage in a 10,000 person room, and the friendships and the people that I met and the business opportunities. I mean, I found out about Master Co because of that. And I met friends that were in pranic healing, and like my whole entire world changed because of that one synchronistic moment. Um, and our Uber, like to add to the story, our Uber at the airport actually like canceled the trip. So then the second Uber got us exactly at the hotel at the exact time that this friend, who's now a good friend of mine, was there. And just like you can't make it up, right? And so like I remember that is like one of like a palpable, memorable, synchronistic moment. I mean, I have so many, but that one is like when somebody asks me about a synchronistic moment, I mean, that's a bunch of synchronicities that led to the catalyst of something. And just like the fact that it wasn't just one, it was like the room block and going and the Uber canceling, it all led to something I never could have imagined. Um, and that's the fun part, right? Like just also starting to not only believe in synchronistic moments, but also know that you're worthy of receiving them has been so huge.
Yeah. I think that's been a real pivotal understanding in my growth and my journey is you can receive this. You deserve to receive this.
Mm.
And you did. You opened yourself up to receive all of that. And it piled up. It was like, yes, Beth, you deserve all of this. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. Thank you for asking me that because I was able to relive it. And and I think too, I will be honest, and I think a lot of listeners probably hopefully can resonate with this. And I know Sammy and our friendship, you've shared things that can, is that oftentimes the ebb and the flow of this journey that we call life, like we lose touch. I have lost touch even recently, to be completely open and transparent, of the magic of the ability to attract, to receive, to I mean, my first Tony event ever, I was like with the best of the best, the smartest people in the room, like the most dedicated, like entrepreneur, like I was in my element. And then to receive that, and so much happened after that. But then there's been moments where I've lost touch with the fact that number one, I am magnetic. I can magnetize and materialize and attract those synchronistic moments again and again and again and again when we get in touch with, like you said, Sammy, so beautifully, like we are worthy of receiving, and not from an egotistical place, but from that knowing, that spiritual journey, that we're connected with all. Like we are God, we're one with God, we're one with all. So if I'm one with that and I'm not just Bethany, I mean, that is worthy in and of itself, but like I'm a part of creation, no different than the flowers. Like the flowers are worthy of rain, the birds are worthy of the worms. Like, why would we not be worthy of provisional resources that God, source in and of itself, is giving us? We are, but we're unconditioning, unwiring that belief, because that belief system serves society. That belief system served consumerism. That belief system serves system. But in reality, that's not working anymore.
Yeah. And, deep down, we all deserve happiness. We all deserve fulfillment. We all deserve success. Um, you sharing this story really reminds me of another thing that we've learned from Grandmaster Choa. It's in giving that we receive.
Mm.
I do see you as a big giver, and sometimes it may seem like certain people are really open to receiving and they have a lot of these amazing synchronistic experiences and all this stuff happens for them. Um, what is your interpretation of these situations where, somebody really wants something, but they see other people getting things and they just don't see it possible for themselves because
Mm.
X, Y, or Z?
I think a few things come to mind. One is call it divine timing, call it right timing. Something I've surrendered into is the fact that it's not on Bethany's timing. That comes from ego, that it's really on a bigger orchestration of divine, of source, of universal intelligence that is when things unfold. And even though I know that, there's still, I mean, I still am in this battle every day. I'm like, yeah, but like I'm trying to move the needle here. And so I think that's the first thing, is that if it doesn't feel like it's coming to fruition for you, I've been there too. I know Sammy's been there too. And you might lead yourself to believe, like, what am I doing? Am I not worthy? Do I not do enough? But in moments like that, and I'm in this now, actually, I've ebbed and flowed through so many seasons of my life, especially since my spiritual journey kicked off the last like 5 years, really more deeply, is things started to pick up, things started to accelerate, karmic acceleration. And what I've realized that in those moments of waiting for God's timing to work out, not your timing, is a perfect opportunity for character building, right? And this is a part of pranic healing,
Mm-hmm.
but how, if we are attracting what we are, there's also lag time in the universe. How can we, instead of just focusing on, like, I'm waiting for it to happen to me or for me, which is you're worthy of it, and how can we work through this energetic exchange of like, okay, how can I give? Like, what do I have to work with now in the here now in this season of my life? Do I have time? Do I have money? Do I have connections? How can I be something that is life-giving? And I think this might have been Tony Robbins. It's a quote that forever changed my life, but it's something to the effect of like, what is life-giving will breed more life. Meaning if you're contributing to the world in a life-giving way, life will breed that which breeds more life. Life will be given to those who are life-giving. It's just that flow of energy. So that's what I would say. That's been my journey. That's still my journey, is that if you're in those moments of waiting, is to keep working on yourself, keep opening up your energetic field, keep opening up your heart first and foremost, be of service first, and know that what is rightfully yours will always can't miss you, right? I keep reminding myself that what is for you literally by law cannot miss you.
Yes, that is the truth, and I'm a firm believer in that divine timing. I know sometimes we allow the ego to take hold and, oh, I just want this so bad. I want it so bad. And, taking all those efforts for things. And sometimes it's a good time to slow down and to appreciate what's around you and really understand why you're in this leg of the journey and why you are where you are right now. It's in those moments where you really see the beauty in the life, that we touched on at the beginning of this conversation, actually. Um, and I'm gonna tell a really silly story, but it might really help the listeners here to make sense of it all. Um, so I have this uh interesting, I don't know what I would even call it, ability. I'll call it an ability. I find four-leaf clovers. I
Hmm.
just find them effortlessly, and it just is. It always has been, always will be. So I'll go for walks, and if I'm just looking, like, scouring over all the clovers, like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I'm not gonna find one. I'm being way too willful. I'm not gonna find one. When I go for a walk and I smile and I look around, I enjoy, take a big deep breath, breathe, watch where I'm stepping. All of a sudden, I'll just be pausing and I'll look down and, oh, look, there it is.
Wow.
There it is, right there, right in front of you. When things are really meant for you, they pop up in these wondrous ways. And to an extent, we can be willful and we can take the action steps in that direction, but we also have to allow for that flow, that back and forth, that ebb and flow to, I believe I touched on actually the similar topic when I was talking with Brooke, 2 episodes prior to this. Um, when you are coming at something with such force, you can push it away. But if you
Hmm.
have an equal force, similar to how you said we kind of connected through, having that similar vibration, that similar energy, if you're moving at a faster force than it's coming at you, then you're pushing it away. And it's time to step back and to feel how the pull is. Um, I'm sure somebody who knows physics could have a really great description of that, but this is my beautiful understanding of it. And I've really found that utilizing that freedom and kind of letting go in those moments can be the most fruitful. And it's in those moments that we have the best experiences. We have the fondest memories, the most fun, the play, the joy, the happiness, the fulfillment. And by golly, we were given these lives to have that experience. We are incredible beings. We have feelings. We have thoughts, we have emotions, and they're not to be taken lightly. They are beautiful tools that we can utilize. And we can also work, we can serve, we can help others in this beautiful journey. But part of the journey is experience. And I kind of went on a little rant there.
No, it's so good. There's a couple of things that you were sharing that really reminded me of those lessons. And one was in seasons of pushing, especially as we talk about feminine energy, feminine energetics, is I've come to the realization too that the energy of trying, of forcing, not only, I love that the beautiful visual you gave us, Sammy, not only pushes away because we're overriding that energetic, but also the frequency of which the trying, the forcing is almost like scarcity, or it's almost like we're trying to manipulate or control, as opposed to being open-ended to synchronistic moments. Um, the tonality behind the intention always repels the energetic behind it, the emotion behind it, as opposed to knowing we're in an infinite realm and we're worthy of receiving and it will come in divine timing. And like not just thinking that, but deeply embodying that belief in our energetic being, in our heart space, changes everything. So it's something for the listeners. I mean, and I'm continuously playing with it. Gosh, even literally my daily life right now to just try that on, right? Like just Sammy and I try it on all the time. Like it's like, oh, we're working towards this, and then okay, that's not getting me anywhere. Like, let me sit back and let me receive, and like just kind of in this like there's no perfectionism. Like Sammy said, it's just part of the journey is experiencing all of it, the breadth and the depth of every emotion. And there's nowhere to get to. Like there's no carrot on the stick to like it's a forever journey. And so embark on it with joy and gratitude and surrender.
With that surrender, I mean, you can cry, you can be angry. It doesn't all have to be butterflies and
Mm.
rainbows.
Yeah.
Stuff can get
We wouldn't have
frustrating.
contrast. Yeah, we wouldn't have contrast to appreciate. Like I had a friend who lived in San Diego. She's from the East Coast, moved to San Diego for a little while. And she's a dear friend of mine. And she would say, you know, Bethany, I was there long enough that because I didn't have the contrast, and this is a simple analogy of weather, right? But it was sunny all the time, that she forgot to appreciate those moments in life, the high moments, the bright moments, however you want to define them, because it was just, there was no contrast, there was no duality. And so I feel like in life, when we experience the quote unquote lows or perceived lows, which they never are, because everything is happening in a dualistic world at the same time. But when we experience those perceived lows, those perceived sticky moments, the muck, right, with the lotus analogy, only can we then appreciate the opposite, right? The antithesis of what is in those moments. So I think when you're in them, like those seasons, you're like, oh, wait, this is exciting because I know nothing lasts forever. And I know that simultaneously, there is so much light, there's so much happening in the works that I can't see right now. And
Always
that's
so
the
much.
fun part.
So to touch on the lotus analogy, um, this is an analogy that we've been taught in pranic healing, that there's a lotus flower, and the lotus is below the mud. It's in the mud before it blooms, and they describe you, your soul, as a lotus, and the mud is, the ins and outs of the days. It's life, whatever it is you're going through. It can be being around different people's experiences even. And you're this little lotus in this mud, figuring it all out, experiencing. And as you continue figuring it out and you continue working on yourself, you work up out of that mud and you blossom and you start to bloom.
Towards the
But I just
light.
wanted to describe that because you mentioned it.
Yes, you're not familiar with the lotus analogy. Yeah, and it's always I think the beautiful thing about that, I love a good visual because I think it helps to take these rather esoteric like concepts and make them very palatable and make them very tangible for us as humans in this third dimensional realm. Uh, I really I like the reminder too that, and I think sunflowers are the same way. Like regardless of what's happening in their environment, sunflowers always turn towards the light. Same thing with the lotus. The lotus, although it's in the muck, it never looks down. It's like, okay, I know I'm in this, but I'm gonna always look at source. I'm gonna always look towards what I am and where I'm from and where my source of life comes from, which is up, right? And whatever that means to you, your higher soul, source, God, universe. Knowing your North Star is so critical when you get caught up in those sticky moments.
And just like knowing that you are supported no matter what is going on
Mm.
around you. And remembering that even in the moments where it's the hardest, or you, you want to go back to old patterns of behavior, old thoughts, emotions, or maybe you did go back to them, which is perfectly fine. It happens to everybody. Um, but finding your way back to that vibration of gratitude Okay, where can I start? What happened today? That's okay. I woke up today. That's amazing. Just starting at the simplest places so that you can start to build yourself back up and knowing that you're always supported from within, no matter what that source is, the
Hmm.
understanding of that source is to you.
It's the small moments. Yeah. 2 millimeter shifts, as Tony would say. It really is. It's the compounding, it's the consistency. Like when you show up, when you realize, number one, and I always come back to this homecoming and this internal truth that in every moment, if there's breath in your lungs, there's purpose for your life. That here's a simple analogy. Like, let's say you want to eat healthier, but you don't, you had, I don't know, a slice of pizza, something. That's okay. You enjoyed it. And don't sit in the past and self-sabotage or whatever it might be. You are creating this version of you or the next iteration, the more expanded version in every moment. So it's like, okay, if and you attract what you are. So if you want to attract a really wonderful opportunity that's lively and vibrant, like you must be of that frequency. So I ask myself that all the time, like who do I need to be to attract the partner that I desire? Like because it comes back to energy, right? Or what job or career or whatever it is that we want to, it's not even desire because that's separation. We just must attune our energetic being, our mindset, our heart set, our physical bodies, all of these components to that frequency. It's just an attunement. Like I just like a little tweak. And it might not happen overnight that we catapult into this different frequency, but it's a small millimeter shifts over time that you eventually will wake up. There's a tiny little life form on my computer here. The little spider. Um, it's those
Oh, good.
tiny little moments. He wants to say hello. So yes, that's just something that has helped me and kind of the same theme that you're talking about, Sammy, of those small shifts.
So those small shifts, I love how you shared that, and I think it also goes back to the magnetism that I described earlier. It all very, very well meshes together. And I have to bring this up because last night I went to go take a bath and there was a daddy long leg in the bathtub, and I saw a spider earlier in the day yesterday. And I looked up spiritual meaning of spiders because that's something that happens. Um, they symbolize
Apparently.
destiny or weavers of
Really?
fate and I just want to share that with you because when these little magical moments come up, we easily forget them. And that spider came into your life for a
Wow.
reason.
Yeah, he was tiny. Talk about tiny little life. Like he has life in him, but he was like a size of a pencil, this little red guy. That's so fun too. I feel like to
So,
celebrate life in all forms.
yes, it's so beautiful to celebrate life in all forms. In celebrating life, I want to hear how you see yourself impacting others in the world through your work in the coming years. What does that look like
Mm,
with no boundaries? I just want to know like
yeah.
what you believe to be true, where your heart's at.
My belief is that mm, I've sat with my purpose for a long time and have had this conversation with many individuals. And I believe that our purpose ebbs and flows through different seasons. And so I say all that to say that over the years, my way of being and impacting has molded into ways I never thought. So what I mean by that is I used to lead women's gatherings and women's retreats, and that's still a big part of my work here is to bring women together to be in, like Sammy has beautifully done with this podcast and this channel, in raw, unfiltered, vulnerable ways, because that's how we authentically show up. And so something happens, something magical happens when women are gathering, whether it's in a virtual container or a physical container. They can just, when they feel safe to be themselves, is when they get to taste that authentic truth. And so much comes from that place. And so that's been a big part of my work in the holistic realm, gathering women for retreats, for gatherings. And it's actually still a foundational part of what I foresee myself continuing to do. But as my journey and as my being has evolved and changed, and my muddy chapters in life, I too know that it's not just me. And so I continue to feel called to guide women through my own journey. By no means am I an expert, but as I continue to embark upon life and come back home to my center, to my home space in my mind, my body, my soul, to be that permission slip for other women to say, wait. And so specifically, what I foresee that continuing to look like and what I'm embarking upon now, as somebody who's come from corporate America and who lives in a culture here in the United States, it's very much a hustle culture, a culture where my entire life doing, as a woman even, doesn't matter. Doing is celebrated. If you're not busy, what's wrong with you? If you're resting, you better be deathly sick. There's no time for play. Play is actually not acceptable as an adult. Dancing and coloring outside the lines, and then I'm like awakening to the fact that wait, this is so wrong. Like we've been in cages, we've been in boxes, we've been staring at boxes, disconnected from not only ourselves, from source, from Mother Earth, Mother Gaia herself, who is our home space in this planet, in this realm, in this lifetime. And we've been eating things that are making us sick. We've been consuming in other ways. And so my journey right now and what I desire and feel called, my soul calling me to do is in my own continuously unraveling of these social cultural conditionings is to come back to like what God made me as a woman in this lifetime. Like women are fluid, women are divine, women are creative, women have a portal quite literally within their being of creation. And we've been so, I and others in my community have shared this. And so I know that there must be other women out there, have been so out of sync and out of harmony with our natural rhythm, our natural 28-day cycle, our way of working, our creative seasons, how we nourish our body, intuitive eating, not eating during our lunch break under fluorescent lighting, being with our children instead of outsourcing work to somebody else because we're too busy. Spending time to play. That's something in my own journey I am working back to be in that state of play, to awaken that playful child within, to paint because I want to paint, to start a podcast because I want to, not because I'm trying to achieve something, like to just be with that creator within. And so in my own journey, which I'm on now, to learn homestead skills, to just make something and be with the dough, right? Like just because, not because I'm trying to accomplish anything, to see what happens from that space. And I know deeply in my community, so many other women don't know why they feel the way they feel, but they know that something's off. And my journey over the next however long, it's my soul's calling, is to embark upon that myself and simultaneously be a guide to other women who are looking for a community and looking for resources of how to recalibrate and how to come back home.
That is so, it touched my heart. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Just to reflect on that. Wow. First off, you are a magical being,
Mm.
and what you're doing is inspiring to me. And I know that it's more than likely going to inspire so many women, and it's really going to make a lot of positive change and impact in this world and in the lives of them and their families, their loved ones, their coworkers. Just making that small change for yourself can have so much of a ripple effect in your life and everybody around you. Because one of the things we don't really recognize is when we're trying to live a life that we think we need to live, and it's against our own values, it's against our own innate qualities, it's against, what feels right inside, we vibrate that.
Mm,
Um, Grandmaster Choa calls it a psychic radiatory field. And you send that out to people. And guess what? So many people in our society are doing that right now. They're living these lives that are completely outside of what feels natural to them. They don't even know what, a lot of people don't know what feels natural to them. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I know that I woke up and I was like, this isn't me.
mm,
And I really think that as you share your journey, as you sprinkle these little bits of knowledge to others, and as they start to share it, it's going to really, really impact so many people in so many ways. And a lot won't even realize until, gosh, they're just so happy and being themselves fully, deeply, completely.
mm.
Um, Sorry, that touched my heart a lot, and I don't know what
Oh,
to do
that
there.
was beautiful. Thank you.
Uh, so, I do want to know, do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom to our listeners today?
Mm. Something that was shared with me, it's a quote that came from a friend just recently who wanted for date night to draw chalk on the ground, and she found herself coloring outside the lines. And she shared with me, Bethany, how profound was it? She's a yoga instructor, and so it's so beautiful because she shared this with all of her students as well. Bethany, how profound and how much change would we create if we just all started to color outside the lines? And that can mean whatever that means to the listeners. To me, that means not following status quo, but actually listening to the whispers of my soul, which I know what they are, and not falling into survival or fear or lower frequencies, but to just playfully, from the soul's perspective, color outside the lines, because the lines are not the box, the illusion, the thing that you are told to do by society, by your parents, by your friends, whomever, is an illusion. The box isn't real. And so play with that. I'm going to continue to play with that. I'm going to continue to color outside the lines. And that would be my closing quote for all the listeners is like, just start small. Not physical. You can physically color outside the lines, maybe get some chalk and play. But also find little moments in your life where you might feel like you're boxed in. Like Sammy, take that walk, even though maybe it's not part of being in the box. Step outside, quite literally, and start coloring outside the lines.
Thank you, Bethany. That rings so true to me. Honestly, I find myself in many situations if I maybe get in a stress state or in a state of doubt or fear or worry. I'm like, okay, Sammy, think outside the box right here. Why
Mm.
are you in the box right now? Let's step outside and really take a different perspective on the situation. And it's just in those most simple moments that you can redirect. And sometimes that redirection's all we need to have an amazing day compared to having a day filled with fear. I mean, it's simple as that. You can feed what you want to feed. And a lot of it is becoming conscious of what you're feeding in the first place. So, Miss Bethany, it's been a pleasure having you. How can our listeners find and follow your work? How can they connect with you?
Yes, I'm in a rebrand right now, so you can find me on Instagram, Bethany L-Monaghan, Bethany Monaghan, Bethany L Monaghan. And I also too am starting a podcast called the Holistic House Podcast. So you can find that. It's officially live on YouTube and it will be streamed on Spotify. All about connecting with women such as Sammy and other beautiful souls who are on this homecoming journey back to themselves. So those platforms, I will see you there. Thank you, Sammy, so much. This has been so fun and so fulfilling, soul fulfilling, really.
It is soul fulfilling. This is the best work that I do, and it is so fun and so freeing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will link Bethany below in the description in the bio. Bethany, thank you for sharing your incredible insights. It's been such a gift having you on the SEE Blissfully-lit podcast. Um, in closing, I really like to do this just to connect and connect with our listeners. So I'm going to have you close your eyes. You can uncross your palms, uncross your legs. Take a deep breath in, sigh it out. Another deep breath in, sigh it out. If you're leaning back, sit upright. Continue that deep breath, breathing into your belly, into your diaphragm. Exhale. Closing your eyes. Bring your gaze with your eyes closed up to the forehead. Allow your breath to regulate. Recognize this stillness, this interconnectedness that we share. This peace and this bliss is within you always, within access. And slowly open your eyes. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you to everyone here. Mm. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, oh, oh.